What's going on there, YouTube? Welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over the X-Men, but now it's time for us to jump into some good old Deadpool. But really, we're going to cover the first series Deadpool ever had in 1993. And yes, it was a miniseries, but it was his first series. Deadpool, The Circle Chase. Now, this was a very interesting story arc, but it's also giving us the first details of the actual origin of Deadpool. But also, this is coming out of a few things we saw in the early days of X-Force comics, but also Cable comics as well. And you see what I mean as we go through today's video. Now, when it came to Deadpool's first solo miniseries, it was only a 4-part miniseries. But hey, it's still a decent one. And it kind of gives you the idea of what the character of Deadpool is truly like. And so getting into the first chapter for today's video, we actually jump over to Sarajevo. Now, this is a small city in a different country that's unfortunately going through a civil war. But for Deadpool, it's the perfect place to hide. Or well, he thought it would be, because out of nowhere, he is then attacked by a group of mercenaries. Now, the reason why these mercenaries are coming after Deadpool will be explained down the road later on in this video, but it's kind of cool to see Deadpool in action in the earlier parts of this story arc. It's just Deadpool just having fun, killing off each members of this actual mercenary group. But once he's done killing all of them, he then goes into his safe house where we see him meeting up with Weasel. Now, we actually met Weasel back in our first story arc in Cable Comics. And even back in that story arc, it was told to us that Weasel and Deadpool are actually close friends. Now, in that Cable story arc, we had learned that Weasel had no idea where Deadpool was because Deadpool was looking for Vanessa. That small piece right there, it goes into this story arc right here, where you do have Deadpool trying to find Vanessa, but at the same time, he's also being hunted down by different groups of mercenaries because of Tolliver's will. Now, we had learned over in the Cable solo series that Tolliver is actually Tyler Dayspring, the son of Cable, who came back in time and became an arms dealer. Now, for Deadpool, in the early days of X-Force comics, we had learned that Deadpool was working for Tolliver, but Cable had killed off Tolliver around X-Force, I want to say issue number 15. Now, with Tolliver being supposedly dead, you now have everybody trying to get a hold of his will. Now, Tolliver's will is kind of like a treasure hunt, a scavenger hunt. Apparently, he left behind a powerful weapon. And the thing is, a lot of folks believe that Deadpool may know more information about the actual will. And the reason why, because Deadpool used to work for, well, Mr. Tolliver. But again, Deadpool's right now is trying to find Vanessa. He does not truly care about the actual will. But while you have Deadpool and also Weasel talking, well, that is when they are confronted by Garrison Kane, aka Weapon X. Now, something else we have to remember when it comes to the early days of X-Force comics is that the Juggernaut and also Black Tom had fought against X-Force. Now, Cable, we were left to believe had actually killed off Black Tom or kind of put him on the verge of death. But you didn't have Deadpool being able to grab both guys and get them away from Cable and X-Force. But then we're left to wonder what happened to Black Tom, because it did seem like Cable had killed him off. Well, we kind of find out Black Tom is not dead, and apparently he was left behind in some kind of facility, and all the scientists there were told by Tolliver to try to save the life of Black Tom, but to also make him better. And so you have the Juggernaut going over to that facility to see Black Tom, to see that Black Tom is okay, but Black Tom is, well, different now. But now we're going to pick up with a random character we're not really going to see again for a good while, and his name is Nico. Now, when it comes to Nico, he had a brother named Pico, and Pico used to work for Mr. Tolliver, but Pico was killed off by, well, Deadpool. And so for Nico, after he is able to get rid of some mercenaries who also believe that he might have some information about the actual will of Mr. Tolliver, you then have Nico be confronted by, well, a character known as the Courier. Now, the Courier is going to be really important over in Gambit comics once we're able to actually dive into some Gambit comics. But we see the Courier being here to receive some package from Nico because, again, Nico still believes that Deadpool was the one who killed off Pico. And so Nico wants Deadpool dead. And so you have Nico hand over Courier a package of information. Information can be used as a way of payment to basically pay another group of characters called the Executive Elite. And apparently, Nico wants to hire them to kill off Deadpool. But now we have to get back over to Deadpool and also Garrison Kane. Now, if you saw my earlier videos where we had discussed about Garrison Kane, you would know that his code name is Weapon X. Now, this Deadpool miniseries is also giving us more information about Garrison Kane. Now, for Garrison Kane, we learned that he was part of the second version of Weapon X. As we all know, when it came to Weapon X, they made Wolverine into a weapon, but they were shut down. But thanks to Department K, we had a new version of Weapon X, and apparently they were the ones who turned Garrison Kane into a cyborg-like character. Now, in a recent story arc, he went into the future with Cable, and Cable was able to give Garrison Kane a new upgrade to his cybernetic body parts. And so Garrison Kane is more advanced than he was the last time he fought against Deadpool. We're also going to find out that Deadpool was possibly also part of the Weapon X program as well, alongside with Garrison Kane. Now, the reason why Garrison is here, because he's looking for Vanessa. Now, we had actually met Vanessa over in X-Force comics. You see, when it came to Cable and X-Force, they believed that Domino was actually Domino. But in reality, the real Domino was captured by Mr. Tolliver. And so the Domino we saw in X-Force comics was actually Copycat, aka Vanessa, who is able to use her ability to change her appearance to look like Domino. Either way, for Deadpool, he wants to find Copycat. He wants to actually kill her off. Now, for Garrison Kane, he wants to find her because over in the Cable solo series, she has snuck away after you had the six-pack team reunite with Cable. She just disappeared after she realized that Cable had never truly loved her. And so Garrison Kane is trying his best to find her, and so is Deadpool. But both characters believe that each other knows where to find her, until you have Weasel say, hey, guys, you're both looking for her, which means neither of you guys know where she's actually at. How about you guys stop fighting against each other and just go your separate ways? And hopefully one of you guys may be able to actually find her. Now, Garrison Kane also tells Deadpool about a certain character coming back to life, a character known as Slayback. Now, unfortunately, we're not going to learn much about Slayback. All we know is that in the past, Deadpool had killed him off in a way where for Deadpool, there's no way Slayback is alive. But when we jump over to Slayback, we see that he is alive and well. And he's currently trying to hunt down two people right now, Garrison Kane and also Wade Wilson. And apparently, he was also part of the Weapon X program involving Garrison Kane and Deadpool. Now, like I said earlier, when it came to Tolliver, he wanted to make sure that Black Tom did survive, but Black Tom also got an upgrade. And so we jump back over to that facility with the Juggernaut, and we see Juggernaut and the assistant there at that facility showing us what Black Tom looks like. And apparently, Black Tom did get an upgrade, and he may have gained a new power as well. But either way, these two characters are going to go after Deadpool next. And so as we go into the second chapter for today's video, we actually pick up in Cairo, Egypt, where we pick up with another person who is currently working for, well, Mr. Tolliver, even though he's quote unquote dead. Now, for this character right here, he has a briefcase. Inside that briefcase is a disc that contains some very important information about the powerful weapon that Tolliver left behind. That's the whole point of the will of Tolliver, that apparently if you are able to get all the information that he had left behind, you'll then be able to find the powerful weapon that he had left behind. And so this guy here has a disc that contains some very important information about the powerful weapon that Tolliver had left behind. And so we see this guy being chased down by a group of mercenaries. Now, luckily for this guy, Deadpool arrives, and Deadpool is able to take out those mercenaries, but to also get his hands on that briefcase. Unfortunately for Deadpool, right after he was able to get his hands on that briefcase, that is when he is attacked by the Juggernaut. But also, he's attacked by Black Tom from behind. And with those two characters working together, they were able to take out Deadpool, get the briefcase, and disappear. But now we have to jump over to Vanessa's parents' home, aka Copycat, her parents' home. Either way, we do see her mother being confronted by a character known as Sluggo. Now, for Sluggo, he has close ties to both Deadpool and also Vanessa. Now, really, we don't need to dive too deep into his actual origin because honestly, he's not really an important character. Just know that for Sluggo, he has close ties to Deadpool and also Vanessa because they had a long history with one another. Either way, when it comes to Sluggo, back in X-Force Comics, and we have not covered this story yet, he killed off Vanessa's friend Tina. After doing that, he continued to look for Vanessa, and that is why he went to her mom's house, hoping to find her there. Except Vanessa was able to get a surprise attack on him. Now, once you have Vanessa being able to put herself in a position where she has the upper hand, you have Sluggo tell her like, hey, listen, Deadpool is looking for you, but also everybody else who wants part of Tolliver's will is also looking for you as well. And the reason why, because Vanessa had also worked for Tolliver. All these different people who did not work for Tolliver believe that Deadpool, Vanessa, and other people who did work for Tolliver may have some information about the actual will of Tolliver. And so once she hears that one, Deadpool is, well, looking for her, and two, that Tolliver left behind some kind of powerful weapon, she says, you know what? I want to figure out what did Tolliver leave behind. And so she steals Sluggo's car to take part in the whole hunt for Tolliver's will. Getting back over to the courier, we actually see the courier going over to have a meeting with one of the members of the executive elite. Now, the actual leader of that group, his name is Comcast. And honestly, it's a horrible name. But down the road, he'll become Black Box in later comics. But he does receive the payment from the courier. Now, it's not money, it's information. And apparently, it is another disc. And that other disc is going to be really important when it comes to finding out where is the actual location of this powerful weapon. But now we have to jump back over to Deadpool. Now you have Deadpool going after, well, Black Tom and the Juggernaut. Now for me, this was kind of a funny battle. And the reason why, because the Juggernaut and also Black Tom decided to take a plane to go back to where their base is at. And so you have Deadpool being able to actually sneak onto the plane. Now, as the battle goes on, Deadpool realized that Juggernaut cannot live without Black Tom. Like, their bond is so close that Juggernaut rather go ahead and fail a mission rather than let Black Tom die. And so when you have Deadpool open up a door that could literally send Black Tom flying out the door into the air, most likely killing him, you have the Juggernaut go ahead and try his best to save Black Tom, but also gives a disc back over to Deadpool. And so at the end of the battle, Black Tom and Juggernaut, they fell out of the plane, but Deadpool was able to stay on the plane, but also he was able to get his hands back on the disc that he lost to them earlier. But getting back over to Garrison Kane, we see Garrison going back to what seems to be his home. Now, as soon as he walks into his actual home, well, that is the moment he is attacked by no other than Slayback. And Slayback is still trying his best to find Wade Wilson. Because remember, earlier, he had broke into Department K looking for information about both Garrison Kane and also Wade Wilson, and using Garrison as a way to hopefully find Deadpool to get revenge for Deadpool killing him off in the past. And so as we get into the third chapter, we actually pick up with Deadpool now fighting against the executive elite. Now, this was the group that was actually hired earlier on in the first chapter by Nico. And of course, other leader earlier, Comcast. But now we pick up with two other members of the actual crew. And that would be two ladies. The first one being Makeshift and the other being known as Riv. Now, you do have the team being able to actually work together good enough to, well, take down Deadpool. And they are actually able to knock him out. And so just like that, you have the two ladies knock him out and you have Comcast pick him up and they take him back to their base so that they're able to begin to, well, interrogate him. And really, this interrogation is going to be used as a way to kind of begin our adventure to learn more about the actual origin of Deadpool, because by this point in Marvel Comics, we only knew a tad bit of pieces of Deadpool, but none of those pieces were actually about his origin story. This chapter right here gives us some more details about the actual past of Deadpool. Now, before we are able to actually learn the origin of Deadpool, or really pieces of his origin, we jump over to Washington, D.C. 3 days ago, where we pick up with Vanessa. And we actually see Vanessa going to confront the courier. Now, she knows the courier had, well, exchanged some information over to the executive elite. But also, when he did that, he made sure to keep a copy. Now, for the courier, he's kind of like, why would I give you that information? But Vanessa has enough information and pictures to blackmail his parents, who actually own the company that the courier works for. So unfortunately, he has to hand over that information. But now we have to dive into the actual origin of Deadpool. Now, not the complete origin, but we do get some small pieces. See, we do learn that before Wade became Deadpool and before Vanessa became Copycat, they were a couple, right? Now, he dumped her. And the reason why, because, well, he learned that he had cancer, but he also had joined Weapon X. Now, once he had joined the second version of Weapon X, that was when he met Garrison Kane, who was also receiving his cybernetic body part because, thanks to Cable, that man lost his arms and legs. Either way, for Deadpool, that was the reason why he became Deadpool, thanks to Weapon X. Now, unfortunately, we're not really told much more about the actual origin, but now we do know that the man had cancer. Now, while you have the executives elite trying to interrogate Deadpool, they also reveal that they have the other disc. And really, both discs are useless unless they're used together at the same time, because they both have one piece of information. And once you are able to put those two pieces together, you then find out the actual location of where Tolliver's powerful weapon is being held at. Either way, that is when you have Deadpool be saved by Weasel. Now, with Weasel, we do learn that he was able to find Deadpool because, well, it's Weasel. Most likely, he always had Deadpool location. Now, something else I do want to bring up is the whole idea of what Deadpool looks like, because this book right here is not really trying to give us the full look of Deadpool's face. all we are told is that his face is so messed up that when it came to the different members of the elite, they saw his face and they wanted to throw up. Either way, with Deadpool now being free, you have Deadpool and Weasel work together to take down the elite group, but to also get their disc as well. And with both discs now in their hands, that leads to Weasel being able to kind of figure out where Tolliver had hidden this powerful weapon at. Now, once you have Weasel being able to get his hands on both discs, he was able to figure out that Tolliver had left the powerful weapon somewhere in Nepal. Now, we also learned that this powerful weapon is Zero, but a different Zero most likely. Now, we had actually talked about Zero before because in our earlier videos, we saw a Zero work alongside with Strife and his Mutant Liberation Front group. But apparently, this powerful weapon is currently being held in Nepal. Now, when we jump over to Nepal, we also see that Vanessa was able to figure out the weapon must be here as well. And so once she arrives in the actual facility, well, that is when she's then confronted by, well, Slayback, who's going to use her as a way to get close to Deadpool as we go into the final chapter. And so as we dive into the final chapter, we also see that Deadpool and also Weasel have arrived at the actual place where maybe, just maybe, where Tolliver is hiding the powerful weapon, the Zero model. Now, we're going to talk more about Zero here in a moment, but for right now, we do see that Deadpool was able to take down a few monks that were actually living inside this place. But after taking them down, we see Deadpool and Weasel head deeper into the actual facility. But while you have Deadpool and also Weasel going up the stairs, you have Slayback over here Deadpool. So he now knows that his main target is here. His main goal is to now get revenge against Deadpool. But also you have Slayback realize that Garrison Kane is there as well, aka Weapon X. And so now it is going to be an actual party at this place. Now, I want to jump back over to Deadpool and also Weasel because they do find Zero. Now, we have met Zero in the early days of our coverage over X-Force. Now, we saw Zero working alongside with Strife, and at first, we had no idea that it was a robot. We actually thought it was a guy, but in reality, it is a robot called Adam. Now, there's only two Adams in the world of Marvel Comics, 0 and 11. Now, when it comes to Adam, it stands for Ambient Energy Dampening Automated Peacekeeping Mechanism. Adam's main goal is to keep peace across the world. Now, 0 is a prototype, and so down the road, we're going to meet another Adam known as 11. Now, when it comes to 0, like I said earlier, it was with Strife, but after Strife was taken down, apparently Tolliver was able to get his hands on 0, but then he left 0 behind to be part of his will, part of this scavenger hunt. Now, for Adam, it has the ability to scan different people and objects to figure out if those people or those different objects might go out of its way to destroy peace. If that person or object does that, it goes out of its way to get rid of them. And that is going to be really important when it comes to the end of this video. Now, once you had Deadpool and also Weasel be able to find Adam, you also have Garrison Kane arrive. Now, Garrison does try his best to fight against Deadpool once again, but then you have Slayback arrive. Now, we don't get a chance to know what is the actual reasoning why Deadpool is scared of Slayback. All we know is that sometime in the past, Deadpool was able to blow up Slayback. He believed that Slayback was dead, but then somehow Slayback was able to come back to life, and now he wants revenge against Deadpool. But apparently, Deadpool is really scared of Slayback, to the point where it does seem like Deadpool is unable to fight against Slayback like he should. Now, it does get to the point where you have Weasel actually activate 0, and that is a great thing. And the reason why, because you didn't have Slayback being able to stab Vanessa. Now, really, Vanessa got in the way because Slayback was trying to stab Deadpool, but of course, she wanted to protect him, and she stepped in front of the blade. But luckily for Deadpool, 0 was activated. Now, like I said earlier, for Zero, his main goal is to keep peace. And so he begins to use his scanners on every single person in the room. And so once you have Zero being able to scan Slayback, he knew automatically that Slayback is not trying to keep peace at all. And so you have Zero just vaporize Slayback and he's gone. Now you then have Zero continue to scan every other person in the room. Garrison Kane gets a pass. Weasel gets a pass. Vanessa also gets a pass. But Deadpool does not really at first, because when it comes to Zero, he knows that Deadpool is a mercenary, that Deadpool loves the idea of killing golf people. But then you have Deadpool say, listen, if Vanessa is able to copy my powers, she'll then be able to heal up properly. And so once you have Deadpool being able to give Vanessa a small portion of his powers so that she's able to heal up from her stab wound, you have Zero realize that Deadpool is not really a bad person. He's not really trying to destroy peace. And so he let Deadpool live. And so you have Zero disappear to continue its job. But then we see Vanessa be taken away to get some medical help. And really the book kind of ends on that note right there. So yeah, that is the first Deadpool solo series. So guys, that was a fun book, but I do hope you enjoyed the book as well. If you did, please leave me a like down below and subscribe. Also, if you have any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.